Hey guys, I am not doing well. I just recently found out that I have a tumor. There he is! I don't know how he got in. He just won't leave.
I am a Kirby fan. Could you tell? And why wouldn't I be? I mean, who doesn't love running around and sucking up enemies and copying their powers and fighting God?
Oh, I had the wrong game in.
But the best thing about being a Kirby fan is getting treated like an absolute king by Nintendo. Kirby is the Nintendo series that gets the most love from Nintendo by far. Let's put it into perspective. Since its inception, the Donkey Kong series has had about 21 games, not counting ports and remakes. The Kirby series, since its creation in 1992, has had 39. Why does my beloved 8 only have 21 games, half of which he doesn't even star in, when Kirby has more games than I've had doctor's visits? Like, what did you do to earn this?
Oh my god.
The Kirby series is one of my favorites from Nintendo, but it's not one of the ones I have an encyclopedic level of knowledge about. My very first Kirby game was Kirby Superstar on the Super Nintendo, then I had Kirby 64 on the Nintendo 64, Kirby's Nightmare in Dreamland on the GBA, and that was about it for me during childhood. Don't get me wrong, I played those games to death and I mained Kirby in Super Smash Bros, but as far as actually playing the games go, I didn't get to experience more of this series till I was in high school. The best age to announce your love for Kirby. By now I've played a lot of the games in this series, but there are so many I still haven't even gotten the chance to play. And that won't do. I said 3 paragraphs ago that I'm a Kirby fan. I don't want to be made a liar on the internet. I can't have bought this shirt for nothing. So join me as I venture through every single game in the Kirby series, starting with Kirby Goes to Vietnam, Kirby's Dream Land for the Game Boy. Released in 1992 for the original Game Boy, Kirby's Dream Land was the brainchild of Masahiro Sakurai, the same Sakurai that would later create the Super Smash Bros. Series. Sakurai and his team at HAL Laboratory were working on a platformer for the Game Boy where the player's main form of attack was to inhale enemies. The character Kirby was actually just a generic placeholder sprite meant to be used until they could finalize the design for the game's protagonist, but the team at HAL Laboratory wound up loving the character so much they wound up using him for the final game. The game received pretty positive reception and sold astronomically well considering the platform it was on. I actually played this game a few years ago, but like, it's Kirby's Dream Land on the Game Boy. Did you expect me to remember my thoughts on this game? So let's dive back in with an open mind and replay the very first Kirby game ever. Yep, that was certainly the first Kirby game ever. So let's get to the chase. This game is short, as in, I beat the entire thing in half an hour. I mean, I guess that means I have no excuse not to do my taxes now, so thanks Kirby's Dream Land. But okay, let's give the game a fair shot. You start the game, get a pretty cute title screen, and we jump right into the gameplay. In this first game, all you can do is walk, jump, float by mashing up on the D-pad, and use the B button to inhale enemies. Yeah, no copy abilities in this first one, which is weird. That's like having jelly with no peanut butter, or my dad without a DUI. But it's fine. I actually think having no copy abilities give this game an extra layer of challenge. You can't jump on enemies' heads like you do in Mario, and Kirby has no other means of attacking in this game. So your only means of offense are to inhale an enemy and shoot it back out at other enemies. Which is pretty cool actually, especially given that some enemies can't be inhaled. It really makes you think about which enemies can be and makes you strategize about how to use them as projectiles. One thing I like about this game is the little cutscenes you get before each level. It's just Kirby getting himself into some wacky situation and usually has nothing to do with the game itself. But it's cute and it gives us a deeper look into the deep Kirby lore. I wonder where this one fits on the timeline. Speaking of lore, what's the story here? One night, the king of Dreamland, King Dedede, goes into the town and steals all the food. And you gotta stop him. Damn, Nintendo, social commentary about the 1% taking all our resources? Nah, the story's simple, but so are most of the games released during this era, especially on the Game Boy. Besides, you don't play a game like this for the story, you play it for the gameplay. There's 5 stages in this game: Green Greens, Castle Lololo, Float Islands, Bubbly Clouds, and the final boss level, Mount Dedede. Each level just has you getting to point A to point B and ends with a boss fight. Throughout the levels, there's some extra power-ups and stuff to spice up the gameplay, like the Invincibility candy or the spicy curry which lets you spit fireballs. The 4 main bosses in the game include Wispy Woods, a sentient tree.
I knew I was right to buy this poster.
The twins, Lololo and Lalala. Stage 3 has my favorite fight in the whole game. It's a side-scrolling shooter level against a living blimp named Kabula. What the fuck did I just say? Next is Krako, a cloud demon eyeball beast. And the last fight is against King Dedede. You have to do a boss rush before fighting Dedede, but it still doesn't stop all these bosses from being an absolute breeze. The hardest one is Dedede himself, mostly because you have to wait until he does this jump attack to be able to attack him, and he can take so long to do it that you just wind up running around him like a jackass. But hey, we beat him, and the game ends with a short cutscene of Kirby returning all the food to the people of Dreamland. Oh wait, there's an extra hard mode. It's easy. Overall, I think this game is pretty good, but like many first entries in long-running series, it suffers from first game syndrome, and unless you grew up with the game, I can't really see anyone going through this one and absolutely loving it or anything. Like, it's not bad per se, but neither are thumbtacks, and yet I still wouldn't use either as mouthwash.
Well, that didn't take long. Seriously, I can't just play a game in 30 minutes and consider myself a fan of this series. We need to make this a double feature if I'm gonna go into full force cult-like admiration for this guy. And I know just the game to play.
Now this is a Kirby game. Released in 1993 for the NES, Kirby's Adventure is the second game in the series, and it was seen as such an improvement over the first game that it absolutely trounced it in every way. This is considered by many to be one of the best games on the NES, and it came out 2 years after the Super Nintendo released. I didn't play this game during my childhood, except yes I fucking did. Kirby's Adventure received a remake in 2002 for the Game Boy Advance as Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland. This was how I initially played the game, and it still remains one of my favorite games on the GBA. But I still see people who prefer the NES original, which I've played dozens of times but never to completion. But that's all about to change. This game improves on everything in its predecessor. The first game was in black and white or Game Boy's signature puke green, whereas this game is absolutely bursting with color and charm. This is one of the best looking games on the NES, and despite it being 32 years old, it still looks great to this day. But more important than how it looks is how it plays. Kirby can now run and slide, giving him an attack without needing to inhale an enemy, and speaking of inhaling enemies, you can finally copy enemy abilities now, yes! And to think I almost considered switching religions. There's 25 copy abilities in total, ranging from sword, cutter, burn, ice, laser, needle, stone. There's just so much to work with here, and it changes up the gameplay so much. Now instead of using enemies as projectiles, the game has you prioritizing which enemies to inhale, given that you can only get certain abilities from certain enemies. And given that you lose said ability each time you get hit, it really makes the game so much more involved than anything Dreamland 1 had going. Not every ability is created equal, however. The Light and Star Rod abilities are situational and only exist in like 2 levels. They're gimmicks, and it's fine, they serve their purpose. And then there's sleep. Yep. That's what he's doing. There's so many cool gameplay moments that come from this copy system. There's areas in the game that can only be cleared by using certain abilities, so they make sure there's enemies nearby that give you said ability. Then there's moments where you get a choice between multiple copy abilities, and it's nice that the game gives you a chance to pick your preference. Like I prefer Burn and Cutter to pretty much every other ability in the game. But it's not just the gameplay that's been expanded upon here. The soundtrack is absolutely phenomenal for an 8-bit game. The original Dreamland had some pretty decent music too, but other than the Green Greens theme and the Mount Dedede theme, I don't even remember how any of the music in that game goes. There's so many good songs in the Adventure soundtrack though, so many tracks get stuck in my head and are worthy of a foot bumper or two. The story's also seen more attention, rather than being focused on my favorite deadly sin. Adventure story is all about the mystical fountain of dreams, the source of all dreams in Dreamland. King Dedede took the Star Rod, the source of power for the fountain, and broke it into 7 pieces, giving them to his minions to guard over. Not only that, he took a bath in the Fountain of Dreams. You son of a bitch. Now it's up to Kirby to restore the fountain to its former glory, as well as beat King Dedede's ass for daring to bathe. Instead of having only 5 measly levels, this time there's 7 worlds in the game, each one having 5 or 6 levels to get through before fighting a boss. I really like that the levels are all food themed. There's Vegetable Valley, Ice Cream Island, Butter Building, Grape Garden, Yogurt Yard, Orange Ocean, and Rainbow Resort. You may have noticed the first letters of all these spell out Roar G Biv backwards, which are the colors of the rainbow. I'd have preferred if they named the levels after PEMDAS. Each world has its own hub area, which lets you run around and test out copy abilities in a safe environment. The hub areas also house bonus rooms, some of which are arenas which you fight bosses, some housing minigames. The minigames range from crane games, egg catching games, and quick draw. They're a nice change of pace, but I don't have anything to say other than some harsh words for whoever programmed the crane game. Throughout each world, there's a couple of levels where you get ambushed by this mysterious cloak guy named Meta Knight. He shows up and commands his minions to attack Kirby, and these sections are alright. I'm not a fan of how they all seem to have the exact same layout and attack pattern, but they're still fun to play, so I don't mind all that much. Near the end of the adventure, you enter an arena where Meta Knight throws down a sword at you and he refuses to fight you until you pick it up. This section is incredible. It has a level of epic that I don't think I've ever seen in another platformer at the time. It's this epic showdown with a villain that's been following you throughout the entire adventure, and Meta Knight really doesn't make the fight easy for you. But alas, you persevere and this raises more questions than answers. The final world is actually my favorite. The difficulty up until now has been mostly trial and error, leading to a lot of deaths that aren't really your fault, but I think the levels here improve the challenge without making it feel too frustrating. The final level of this world is really cool too. It's an entirely black and white remake of every single level from Dreamland 1, minus the boss fights. This is an amazing callback, but it also highlights how short that game was if the entire thing could just be a level in the sequel. We get a final fight against King Dedede, and he pretty much has the exact same attack pattern as the previous game. It's not a bad fight. In fact, if you don't have a copy ability, it can be pretty challenging. But with a copy ability, it becomes the easiest thing in the game. We reach the fountain and get to this short cutscene where Dedede tries to stop Kirby from putting the Star Rod back on its pedestal, almost as if he's trying to warn him about something. Suddenly, the fountain's water darkens and this mysterious dark orb flies out. I love how panicky and goofy Dedede and Kirby look here. It's one of the most memorable things about this game. Anyway, it turns out the Star Rod was corrupted by a being called Nightmare, who looks like a radio host. Of course we have to chase him down, so Dedede sucks us up, spits us out towards him, and it's here we enter the finale of the game.
This is fucking awesome!
This is easily one of the best final boss fights from any game during this generation. It's another side-scrolling shooter type level like the Kabula fight from Dreamland 1, but my god, the spectacle is on a whole nother level here. You whittle its health bar down and the second phase starts with Nightmare showing you his true form. This part is tough, but with a little precision timing you manage to finally put an end to Nightmare. We get a short cutscene explaining the whole twist, with DDD actually trying to stop Nightmare by hiding the Star Rod. Kirby cleanses the Fountain of Dreams, Kirby and DDD fly over Dreamland, and blam credits. That's Kirby's adventure, but before I give my final thoughts on the game, I do want to highlight Kirby's Nightmare in Dreamland for the GBA a little bit. Like I said, this was one of the only Kirby games I had during my childhood, and it's a full-on remake of Kirby's Adventure. Aside from the obvious graphical update, the game doesn't change a whole lot from the original. It gives Kirby hats for different copy abilities, something that started in Kirby Superstar. The game features 4-player multiplayer, which is awesome, but something I've never been able to try out myself. There's some extra mini-games here, some of the rooms and levels have been changed slightly, there's new music tracks for certain areas, but overall, this is a pretty faithful remake of Kirby's Adventure. If you've never played either game before, I actually think Nightmare in Dreamland is a great way to experience it. Not to say the NES original is obsolete or anything, not at all, but the boost in graphics and added content gives the GBA version a lot of charm. Although I am biased, of course. Overall, Kirby's Adventure isn't just a step up from its predecessor, it's flat out one of the best games on the NES and one of the best 2D platforms of the era. They improved on absolutely everything that Dreamland 1 laid out for the character, and I consider it the true start of the Kirby series. While the Game Boy original isn't a bad game, it feels so inconsequential overall. It's a nice short romp that you can start and beat while you're waiting for the funeral to start, but other than that, it's not something I think anyone's going to be absolutely itching to replay. Now Kirby's Adventure on the other hand, that's just a straight up great game. Overall, I think these two games prove that Nintendo had a hit on their hands, and that this new character of theirs would be an absolute icon in the years to come.
Well, this was a great look back at the first two Kirby games, and it's gotten me excited to play the rest of the series. Of course, there's my personal favorites like 64 and Forgotten Land, but there's all sorts of Kirby games I've never tried before. Triple Deluxe, Planet Robobot, Return to Dreamland, and of course the Kirby Goes to War duology. Might have hallucinated those last two.